And this means the one and all Puff Friends welcoming you to Starfleet Universe on call. That's it. This is not a good way to start out things, but I'm here. You're here. The question is, who else is here? And the moment we say hello to, hey Doug,
Hello.
how you do the lovely night?
Nice warm night out here in South Central Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Barry, how you doing, man?
I believe I'm.
Hey, doing wonderful.
Hey Dave. Dave's in the chat room as always. Well, at least 95% of the time. But anyhow, Mr. Howard, what did you want?
Yes, sir.
Remind me what we wanted to discuss tonight.
I believe we wanted to talk about Origins Past, if I remember correctly,
Yes.
and also about the fundraiser.
Yep. Why don't we start with the fundraiser? Because I'm assuming that'll go more quickly, and that'll give us plenty of time to talk about Origins Past, because we have quite a few
Oh, yeah.
stories I'm sure to tell about that, and this podcast might be running a little long. So let's go with the shorter item when it comes to things. So how's the fundraiser going?
It's coming along. We had a couple of donations. One of the larger groups has basically started to promote it in their group a little bit.
Good.
We'll see how that goes. You know, not a hopeless thing, in my opinion. I'm being optimistic that hopefully by mid-August we'll be able to say this is what we can get minimum,
Right.
and we'll see how it goes from there.
Mm-hmm.
Just for anybody who wasn't listening a few weeks ago, when we spoke about this before, basically what it is I've been running Gamers of Winter and Gamers of Summer for about the last 14, 15 something years. And the last two events that we had, our attendance was just way down. And I run this thing at basically a break-even point normally. It's just something I do to do. And you guys there?
Yeah.
We okay?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Basically, because of the COVID break, we had a significant drop in attendance, and it really hurt us. Now, I don't know if we're going to have the numbers resurge, or if we're going to have a similar kind of turnout. But I'm trying to get it so we can pay for the place up front and move on from there.
Mm-hmm.
Because what I've been doing in the past is taking the money that we've gotten on a roll. I'm getting a feedback thing again.
I'm getting it too.
Nowhere near my computer.
Okay, I'm not getting it, which I think is the best thing.
Did that make the feedback go away?
No, I just heard it again. I heard you. It's like an echo. And it's when I'm speaking and when you're speaking, but it's not when Paul was speaking.
Yeah, I hear the echo too.
Huh. At any rate, just dealing with the echo. Sorry, it's just a little thing I noticed. Normally, what would happen in the past is we would pay the venue off. We'd get our door, and the money from the door would go straight to the next deposit and paying for the venue. We generally had to pay up front for the venue before we have the event. And like with the last event, they let us pay afterwards because we weren't getting it in all the pre-regs.
Right.
We managed to raise the money at the event We paid it off. So, we didn't leave that venue with a debt. But on the other hand, I'm looking at the next one going, I think we really need to fundraise and get it paid for ahead of time.
Right.
Now, if we hit the maximum fundraising goal, we might do a month-long or longer lease on a place, have additional events, and then we discussed that before. But right now, I'll be happy if we get it up to where I feel comfortable with saying, okay, we'll do the lease for the minimum lease for a weekend. So that's basically that. I mean, it's still available on the Gamers of South Central Pennsylvania Convention Facebook page.
Right.
It's a GoFundMe one.
And
basically,
and there's a link right directly on gamersofwinter.net for those of you just listening in on this.
Yeah, we're not running Gamers of Summer this year because I'm just not that confident with doing it this short a period after the last two events.
Right.
Gamers of Winter has always been the larger turnout of the two.
Mm-hmm.
And usually we make a little less on Gamers of Summer than what it costs to do, and we make a little more on Gamers of Winter than it costs to do, and it kind of evens out.
Right. Makes up for it, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna take that chance on it this year. If we get a really good turnout in the winter, I'll start doing the summer one again. It just depends on if people are ready to come back out or not. And I'm thinking that the last two events, just the huge drop in numbers was an indicator that a lot of people just weren't ready to come back out after the sanctions were lifted, so to speak.
Right.
Yeah. So that's pretty much where we're standing on that.
Okay.
Haven't heard from the group up in New York yet, beyond their interest in looking for a space. I would love to have them come down for an event, even if it's their last one. I mean, but I've always wondered why we haven't had a large single turnout for SFP. Because of our location. It's so accessible for like the Eastern Seaboard.
Oh, agreed. But no,
yeah, I mean, we got a few guys, but it's like it's very sporadic. I don't know. I would love to have a larger event there with more SFP guys out there, but that's something I've pushed for years.
Yeah,
just haven't really seen the turnout.
Yeah. So honestly, I'm wondering if it was located more northern Pennsylvania, more northeast Pennsylvania, if that would be better, because obviously then people from Schenectady would be more likely to come down, and then it's pretty close to New York City, because I know that's where Tim Sheehy lives. He lives in Manhattan. I'm not sure if he still lives there. He might have moved by now. And then, of course, Steve McCann, he's still in Jersey, but of course he's a truck driver, so him being home is only a hopeful thing, though.
Oh, yeah.
I think I forget if he's truck driving locally now. He was having some problems with health issues. Of course, Mr. Scott, he's all the way out in the West Coast. Those are the only people I know of that I know where they live. Of course, then we have like Tim Linden, who lives up in Canada, which is that's a pretty far hike. I forget where he lives in Canada, where it's Toronto or Quebec or one of those. I don't think he's in the western part. Hardly, that'd be nuts. But anyhow, yeah.
Yeah, but on the other side, we're also kind of a short drive for the rest of the seaboard, though. I mean, when you're talking about like Northern Virginia, Maryland,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, um,
Delaware,
Andy Palmer.
North Carolina.
Um, who else? Lived down in
Oh
Maryland.
yeah, there's a bunch of guys that live in a huge circle
Yeah,
around.
I know Eric lives in West Virginia.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go. I mean, I don't know,
I don't know.
but they've had their traditional thing up there, but they had their stated reason is basically it's a graying game in that respect. That's what's driving some of that.
Right.
So,
Understood. That's nothing new from me because I keep on being part of organizations that are part of a graying population. So, big surprise. I'm part of that graying population. So,
yeah, we all are. Everybody on this part of that graying population.
agreed.
Speak for yourselves, guys. I'm growing younger.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
So, any rate, on a more positive note.
Yes. That's.
So what did you want to talk about? Is like, I don't know, a next topic.
Well,
We want to move on.
yeah. Well, my.
I mean, there's really not a lot of support at the moment for that.
Right.
Just
Okay. Bring up something which both you and I have done in the past and haven't done for many, many years, which is, of course, the Origins Game Fair.
Oh God, yes. Oh yeah.
You know, when,
Those are some nostalgia-y days for me.
Yep. Yeah, because I know what the many
I
years.
miss those.
Yep.
Actually, the long drive out is actually one of the best parts of that because we get to talk and catch up on stuff.
Yep.
We get to hear about the craziness of my life.
I remember that'd be like half the way there. It's just tell you the craziness that's been going on.
Yeah. Yeah, life's an adventure for some, and actually it's an adventure for everybody. It's just a matter of when and what.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, that was definitely something. I really enjoyed it. I was very deeply disappointed that there was no singing at the sing-along. But other than that, it was an experience overall.
Doug.
And yes, I understand some of us, you don't want to hear singing at the sing-along.
Exactly.
So there you go.
I'm sure you will be more than happy if you actually ever heard some of these people singing. Me, I'm sure I'd be pretty decent. But most people I don't think Steve Cole could sing that well, to be honest.
I have no idea because they wouldn't, and I'm okay with that.
Me too. That's actually one thing I definitely enjoyed doing. It was crazy, which was recording the basically the question and answer session. Basically, where Steve Cole would gather everyone together and talk about what they're doing in the future, what's going on. Then of course have a Q&A about what your favorite product, F&E or Starfleet Battle Force or Starfleet Battles or the tournament or things like that, and there was at least a few years there where I was actually able to record the sessions, which was, I thought, quite cool. I thought, and that those sessions, because there were different sessions for you had the general one, then had ones together for the F&E group, and things like that. And those recordings were some of the most popular ones I had. When it comes to the podcast, because the numbers would just go through the roof, comparatively speaking. They go like 3 times the normal rate of people downloading or those episodes. So fortunately, I was able to buy a Zoom and record there. Of course, to me, the crazy part for me and when as part of the recording is that I connect up. They have a monitor setting, so I would click into the monitor, and then so I could hear it, which always is weird because when you put in the monitor, you're actually hearing your own voice, and that's usually it was a delay by like maybe 5 seconds, so it'd be like an echo, and you have to get used to that. So. I forget, Doug, was it your car or was it Barry's car?
What's that?
That had the problem with the seat.
Don't think my car had a problem with the seat.
Well, yeah, the one year, I forget. I think it was with the driver's seat or something like that. It was kind of goofy.
Let's see. What cars did I drive to Origins while we
No,
were
actually,
driving? I drove the V-Dub.
Forget that because I would have to have been Barry's. I say that because of Doug. You never drove. Well, sorry, we never took your car. Whenever that I come and picked you up, we would take my car.
That's right. Yep.
Well, we did take my car one year, but I think that was the old Neon.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember that there was a seat problem with it, but
I guess I thought there was. I thought it was a little loose or something like that.
Sure, it wasn't your car.
Oh,
I know it was.
I'm just saying it could have been your car.
I don't think. Well, I don't think it was my car. I still remember.
I'm innocent.
Well, the only time I ever went to Origins was with Vall. We took my car.
Mm-hmm. Barry, was that the year that I got the module C3A?
No, I was the one who bought C3A.
Okay, because I remember looking at that.
We read it on the way back.
Right, that's what I remember.
Yeah. We read that on the whole way back.
Yeah, dissection weapon, which is crazy. I would have loved it if that was it was that would be interesting if the Andromedas actually had taken over the galaxy, which in the true history of the timeline they did. So.
Right.
Yeah.
And then they were
alternative reality something that never happened.
Yeah.
That's Andromedan.
They rewrote.
That's Andromedan propaganda.
Exactly.
Right.
And then the game designer said, "No, we're going to revamp that somewhat."
Oh, don't get me started on that.
Yeah.
Because they've nerfed them. But sorry, I can easily go ramp on when it comes to the Andromedans. You know me. Geez, so many years. Was it the first year I went? Yeah, first year I went. I stayed at the Hilton. I think didn't I share the room with you when the Hilton that I was connected.
I know we shared a room. I just don't remember what brand hotel it was.
I think the majority of them were with the one that was attached. Brewery, I think.
Yeah, well, I know the year that I stayed at the Drury for one of the two times, you actually Doug, you had a separate room because you were part of the Origin staff.
Mm-hmm.
And so they had separate reservations for you guys.
Now, that was a few years, I think, after going there.
Yeah, oh yeah. We had been going there for a while, and they actually had built the brewery in those intervening years. When we started going, because the first time I remember I stayed at the Hilton, and I remember trying to check out using the TV, and that didn't quite work, so I had to go down to the and I forget if I stayed with a lot of people or not that year. Because
I do not remember.
yeah, I'm pretty sure. Because I remember the one year where I shared a room with, I forget, it was 2 or 3 other guys. And the difficult part about that was actually getting paid, because it was all under my name. And the guys were paying, basically, I used my credit card and they used cash. They would pay me in cash. And these are guys I did not know. Well, at least they weren't friends. But they were good guys. They were good guys. It's just that finding them when the convention was closing up, and the problem is we were, since they weren't SFB players, it was hard to. The only time I ever saw them was in the room, and we all had different sleep schedules because they had different games. The game might go until 2:00 in the morning. Or it's go at 9:00, and I wouldn't be getting back until like midnight because I'd be hanging out at the SFB table for the judging table for hours, just hanging out. I wouldn't be playing at that point, and I was not a judge at that point either. But yeah, and then there was, of course, the year that I went by myself, because, and it was one of those last minute things, because it was the year that I moved from Westchester to Sinking Spring, and I didn't think I could make it, but my wife basically pushed and shoved me out the door and said go, and I had to make my hotel reservation late, really late, so I had to walk around park. Yeah, the hotel was like 3 blocks from the Hilton, and then as you got in the Hilton, you crossed through the little mall, and then from the mall that was connected to the convention center, and then you get to the convention center. So it was quite a bit of a walk.
Yep. Oh yeah, there was a couple of years where we did something similar.
Mm-hmm.
I remember staying at a place 6 blocks away one year when one of my Army buddies came up and we drove down in his truck.
Mm-hmm.
That was before you and I started commuting out there. Yeah, some interesting stories about that. It's like first time I stayed as volunteer, like sharing a room with a bunch of the other volunteers. That was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I still remember going there mainly for the SFB thing, and really the captain's tournament was the main thing. The captain and the patrol tournament.
Right.
Doing both of those, that was the best.
Yeah, and this is when I first started going. This is before ADB actually got the publishing rights for SFB. It was still owned, the publishing rights were still owned by Task Force Games, but Task Force Games basically had stopped being a true entity for actually producing products because of he overextended himself, and he basically shut down. And finally, Steve Cole got a hold of the IP and got the publishing rights, worked through the deal to buy the publishing rights for SFB and continue on. But before that, he actually had a temporary agreement in place so that he could actually sell, the Starfleet Times, which was a great little newsletter, which I loved to death.
Yeah.
But that was when Joe Butler was running things, and when I still remember that first year that they could play, that we had the tournament at Origins in Columbus, and it was crazy. We had over 120 people playing SFB. Can you imagine that? And that was the main activity that they did at that gaming convention. Is they played SFB.
Oh yeah, they had their own. They had their own big room for years, quite some time. Matter of fact, I remember playing the SFB tournament in San Jose and down in Baltimore, and it was very similar.
Yeah,
but once they got to Columbus and they got into that, they got a really, basically, one really big room, and then they had, I think, a separate space even from that for the Federation and Empire guys.
Yep. Yeah. Later on, we actually.
That was.
Yeah. In later years, we actually got to have a separate room. Yeah. Up across from the main hallway where you had all of the games. Now, as there was good. That's good. There was the good and the bad about that. The good part is that people could play the games in the quiet, so you didn't have the echoes, you didn't have all the noise. The problem, and this was in my mind, this was a bad thing in doing that. The bad thing is that your visibility went down to zero.
We're gonna call it a night.
Okay, Barry.
Yeah,
Okay, good night, Barry.
guys.
Okay, you have a good night.
But
Have a good one. But yeah, you were getting to like the foot traffic issue.
Right, exactly, because we
Because
disappeared.
if you weren't out in the main hall, you didn't have all the foot traffic of people going by and saying, "What the heck is that?" and getting
Right.
interested in it.
Exactly, and I think that was really to our detriment. I understand. Trust me, I understand from a gamer's perspective, it was subpar to play. But from a purely business-oriented approach, you want to be there in the big hall with everybody else, so that when you have people walking around looking at people playing the game, and at the very least seeing how people are excited about this game. You know, that was social media right there before social media was a thing. I still remember teaching people, multiple people in that big freaking hallway, because we got a beautiful spot the one year. The one year we got the spot right next door to the door. So when you walked in the door, you looked to your right, you saw SFB or FedCom. And that was when I was working with David Lang at the time. The idea was to set up, do an F&E online, and actually using his server, which was an interesting thing to begin with. And actually, that was kind of cool working with him, because of that we were able to work together. And it was instead of doing everything through email, we actually were able to sit down and discuss things and work through the issues right there in the middle of the hallway. Well, not in the middle of the hallway, but right there, with everybody else of SFB. So that was cool. Never got it completely worked out, but it was good, But yeah, I still remember doing some demos in the breezeway. I remember doing some.
Yep, that was one of those years too. I remember that. That was awesome. You got a lot of people coming in to do that when you did that.
Yep. And especially when one thing I did do to help that in that category, because we did, when we were in the hallway when the time, as I said, that that I was teaching people, we had specific times where you'd actually have you set up for demo. You had a demo table right there in the hall, and people could come by and play like FedCom, and then you could teach them it. That didn't work out too well, But when we actually were able to get a demo table in the breezeway, that worked out pretty well, especially when I still have them downstairs, down in my basement, which is I actually bought a couple miniatures, one Fed, one Klingon, painted them up so that actually people could actually see the ships that you were flying. So they weren't these little counters, and they weren't just the counters and the SSDs. It actually had the miniatures, which I think really helped things along.
Oh yeah, that's an absolutely awesome visual draw too. And that just snatches people's attention and brings them in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Whereas when you're looking at like little cardboard counters from a distance, it's not so much a visual thing. But yeah, there's that.
What was okay? I was talking about the thing about the first year that you and I.
There was.
Yes.
Hmm?
I was thinking about when was the first time.
Go on.
I'm just thinking about. Do you remember the first year that we drove out together? Cause I forget.
Oh goodness.
I forget if you were a volunteer at that point. Because I know you were working on being more and more responsible of a volunteer, so you could actually get like a free room and things like that.
Well, what was interesting with the volunteer thing was, it did cut down on the expenses a lot. It took up a bunch of my time while I was there, but I really got roped into the volunteer thing when I did the independent film thing for a few years there.
Right.
And I was looking for you to screen. And I asked, hey, can I screen this thing at the film room? And the lady who handled that section of the volunteers said, well, how would you like to run the film room as a volunteer? Because we need somebody to do that. And okay. I ended up running their film room for several years.
Mm-hmm.
That was an awesome experience in its own right, especially getting to screen like the different gamer-related movies that were coming out at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Things like Second Skin, which was about people who really got into the World of Warcraft thing way back in the day, and Uber Goober, which was a general kind of documentary-ish kind of thing about gaming in general, and covered a bunch of interviews with people at a convention. Oh goodness, that was a blast, especially with the retreat, because they had retreats where you could go brainstorm stuff for the next convention and stuff, and ended up being basically a little department head for a few years, and that was interesting. But I think we went out there. It was a few years before I did that. We're talking around 99, 2000 time frame.
Yeah, didn't we the first year? I'm thinking about the first year, and didn't we first year after we got there, the night before we actually started playing the tournament, we actually did some practice games. Am I remembering that correctly?
I think you might be thinking of some things you may have done. I may have just gone to sleep.
That's possible, because I remember multiple years. Which hotel was it? I think it might have been the Hilton, where we had quite a few of the rated ace, and the people would come to Origins to play the Gold Hat tournament. We'd hang out at the bar and just talk about SFB and other things,
That was a time where I wasn't really into hanging out at the bars thing, and I just didn't want to go to that for that particular reason. I do kind of remember those days now, and I wasn't totally asocial, but we went out to dinner with some of the SFU guys a few times.
Right?
Too.
Yeah.
That was fun. A
Didn't we go
I
to
really love
like
the
the steakhouse? I
camaraderie.
think it was across the street, or at
I'm
least
thinking the first time or two across the street, but then, once we started getting booked at the Drury, which had the little catwalk attached to the hotel, to the convention center.
Mm-hmm.
Once we got there, that was pretty much the spot to be the rest of the time.
Oh yeah, the Drury, yeah. Jeez,
So it's like,
as I
and
mentioned.
that's just so convenient.
Mm-hmm. Oh, agreed. And as I mentioned, I forget how many weeks ago it is now, but I told the story about the first year the Drury was there. Well, I made a reservation at the Drury. After I stayed there for the first year, I said, next year I've got to be here. And before I checked out, I talked to the guy at the front desk. And I said, I'd like to make a reservation for next year. And they said, oh, what time? Like, but okay, well, we're booked up at the moment. But here, give me your phone number, because I had a cell phone at the time. I'll give you a call if someone cancels. Great. Okay. I'm walking around. I think I might have been in the food court or convention. I forget where. He gives me a call. It's like someone just canceled. I said, okay, hold that. I'll be right over to make the reservation. Because I wanted to show put down my credit card and all that kind of thing. And I made my reservation for the second year. And after that, it was it. That was it. You never could get it. You could never get a reservation at the Drury ever again. Because that was the hotel to go to for the convention.
Yeah, because you and 10,000 other people want that spot.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So actually, I went across the street to I forgot the place that's across the street. It was
the Hilton.
No, the Hilton was across.
I could be wrong.
The Hilton was the tall building that's old as forever. It was there before the convention center was there. At least I think so, given how old it was. They didn't even have internet. Hilton didn't even have internet, Wi-Fi back then. That was the great thing about the Drury. The Drury had internet. And that's why that was one of the great things about the Drury. And the Hilton didn't have it, so that was always an adventure trying to get internet. Even back in those days when the internet wasn't that big of a deal. Yeah, it was starting to come into its own, but it still wasn't the thing. Like today, today having the internet is almost a requirement. If your hotel doesn't have internet, you're slumming it.
Yep. Sorry about that.
Mm-hmm.
Switch phones real quick.
Okay.
But yeah.
It's dying. Your phone is dying.
The Hampton Inn and Suites was across the street. And the Hilton was also right across the street. So, and it could have been the Hyatt, which is also across the street.
Okay. Yeah, I thought the Hilton was on.
They're all like on that.
Yeah, I thought the Hilton was
all around the convention
on the same side of the street as the Drury. The Hyatt was across the street, and definitely Hampton Inn. The Hampton Inn is the one I stayed at. After the Drury, I just kept on staying at this Hampton Inn for the rest of the years.
According to the map, Hampton Inn and Suites and Hilton are on the same side, which is across the street from the convention center. Hyatt is on the corner, and Drury's kind of around the corner, but attached. There's also the Crown Plaza, which is across another street that's nearby, which could have been another one.
That might have been it. That might be the Crown Plaza that I stayed at. It's been a while.
Yeah,
but I remember it was one of the hotels that was connected. So,
Hmm. Yeah, I think two of them had skywalks over to the straight into the food court area, and
I
that was kind of a huge plus.
I don't think it was in. No, I'm pretty sure only the brewery had one that right into the food court area. The other one just came directly into the to the mall area
Convention
there.
center.
Yeah, but oh man, oh, geez, that reminds me of the one. Holy cow! I'm not sure if you saw her. It was one of these. There was this woman who was LARPing, and she was wearing this chainmail, and
Yes, I took pictures of her.
yeah, that one.
Got a few of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
It actually was doing that sort of cosplay long before it became a big thing.
mm-hmm. I remember the security
yeah,
guards
she
talking
had
to her about her outfit. Because I think there might have been an issue because she didn't.
It's kind of like
Yeah,
yeah.
she didn't have
Yeah,
enough
yes,
of an
I do
outfit
remember
on,
seeing
basically. So to say the very least, she got quite a
but
bit of
everything was-
attention. Oh, I remember that.
Did you say she got evicted or something?
No. She didn't get evicted, but she got a lot of attention.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I remember because back then the cosplay thing wasn't that common. That was goodness, like 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
It was a while before that became a huge deal. There weren't that many people doing it.
Right,
You
but
would see a few, but they were like the exception in the crowd, not
Yeah.
the rule in the crowd.
oh, agreed. But the thing is, for the LARPing people, one thing I remember is that most of the LARPing was done late at night. They'd start around.
Oh yeah, and the large. Back then, it was Vampire the Masquerade was a huge thing for the LARPers,
Right.
and that was basically their thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of them were also doing other things during the day, where they go do a D&D event or a board game event, various things like that, and then they would have their LARPing session in the evening when there's not as many people in the center, and they can move around and use a lot more space than they otherwise would be during the day
Right.
when there's a lot of crowds around.
Mm-hmm.
I remember talking to them quite a few times. It was very nice.
Mm-hmm. Oh, understood. Oh man, remember?
I would love to at our event, but we usually haven't had that huge of a space for them, or that varied of a space
Mm-hmm.
with doing it in those large boxy areas. Whereas it's something like that, they have a lot of three-dimensional space. They can move around with the different, floor levels and sections of the convention center.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I remember quite a few people slumming it at the convention center.
Yeah. A lot of people would go there and sleep in the hallway, basically.
Yep. They didn't have a
Or,
room. They
they
just sleep in the hallway. Yeah.
Or crash on somebody's floor, pay a couple bucks to use the shower in somebody's room.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all sorts of strategies for not having to pay for a hotel space. And one thing with that particular convention is because of their really late hours, people were able to do stuff like that.
Oh yeah, because it was almost run 24 by 7. Especially with you had LARPers hanging around and actually doing activities in the early morning hours.
Oh yeah.
It was definitely crazy. But of course, and the thing is, I'm not sure if you remember this, but I remember this, which is over the years, him actually in doing construction in the middle of in the mall area, as we're each year, and we see it changing as it goes on.
Yep.
They completely redid it.
Oh yeah.
Because the first year I was there, I think it might have been the Crown Plaza, not the Hilton, but they had a bunch of little stores in that little mall area, and then that got changed into, they still had stores, but of course then they created that really huge food court, and there was and I still miss that. That's one I still miss. There was a place there, they served Chinese food, but also they made pad thai. And I loved the pad thai that they would make. You know.
Yeah, that was one of the best I've had.
Yep.
That was great.
Yep. And I still remember.
It was on the to-do list by itself when we went out there.
Mm-hmm.
Was getting food from that particular place at least once, if not 2 or 3 times.
Right.
Out of the whole experience.
Right. Then there was, where would I get that? There was a place that actually would sell, I forget what it was, food specific to Ohio, or it just happened to have it. Like it has the Buckeye popcorn, popcorn with butter and chocolate on it. And I'd buy a bunch of that. Mm-hmm. I remember doing that. Yeah. The great thing, actually, I remember the great thing about being a judge for Origins was that Origins was very generous in giving the people like A to B vouchers for food, which was great for me because I'd be a judge and I'd get my little, how much it was, full of vouchers, so that would actually pay for at least a couple days worth of food right there, because of the people in the food court would actually take the vouchers.
Well, yeah, that was part of their contractual deal.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
Oh, me too.
That was awesome.
Oh, agreed. That's what made it affordable.
I still remember packing a box of groceries basically, because it's like a 5-day stay.
Mm-hmm.
And packing that loaf of bread, peanut butter and jelly, and other stuff that can go into the fridge in that little bitty fridge.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff to microwave, like a little survival package for the 4 or 5 days there.
Oh yeah.
It was almost like a little. It was an excursion basically.
Mm-hmm. Hey,
it was nice.
And of course, if you're an F&E player, we had our cash, because I still remember hearing about it. It's like that we weren't supposed to have food in the rooms, but they had their little area which they kind of hidden. So if you walked in, you wouldn't see the food just laying out. But people would have food in the rooms. They just you wouldn't know where it came from. So.
Yeah. They had their own little world.
Yes, they did. Yes,
basically.
They did. Oh yeah. And
one of the things about the SFB and the F&E experience is that they're really intense. They're very concentration specific.
Mm-hmm.
So, on the one hand, you want that privacy, but on the other hand, that the privacy doesn't help to draw people in.
Right.
Like you were saying.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But miniatures games that you did out as demos, those were really good.
Oh yeah, I remember some of the flying ones, the aircraft with dog fighting. The biplanes.
Mm-hmm.
I still remember walking into the big hall and seeing that set up there, which I thought that was really cool. I was never really interested in playing it. I just thought it looked cool, because that was the way to do dog fighting in my mind, because it was 3D.
I'm going to give a shameless plug real quick.
By all means.
there's a YouTube channel called Little Wars TV,
Mm-hmm.
and they actually have they cover all sorts of miniatures wargaming.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go look through their stuff, you do a little search on it, you can find literally some reviews of a few different World War II biplane fighting games that they played.
Mm-hmm.
And they're beautiful to look at. You know, they have tutorials on how to set up the planes with the, you know, basically, you can make your own rig for the height,
Mm-hmm.
the altitude thing.
Yeah.
And,
Usually they were.
You know, they show you that. Yeah, you can do it with either any kind of telescoping thing, like
Right.
one of your little magnet pickup things. Like, do you remember when Eric ran the Cannibal Fairies game at maybe, good Lord, 8, 9, 10 years ago? He had a similar rig for the fairies, where he had, you know, each stand was a fairy piece for the game, and you know, to give them altitude, it was literally just they were telescoping, you know, modified telescoping magnet pickup things.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's that. Little Wars is they're actually a local to Pennsylvania group too, down in around York,
Mm-hmm.
and they're from like all over the South Central area down there.
Right.
They've got a expansive look
Mm-hmm.
as far as like viewers. They're worth checking out. I was trying to see if they might come up to the convention sometime, run an event or 10. That would be like
that would be
awesome
awesome.
on many different levels.
Agreed.
Yeah. Oh, especially because of how they demo stuff. I mean, I'm looking at going to a board game. Yeah. Board game day. yeah, me can speak. And in September, and it's going to be over the Labor Day weekend. But it's literally it's a one-day event.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the people that have come out to our event over the years have been running this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it's not a conflicting event. So, yay. And what I was thinking about doing, if you wanted to come up for it,
Mm-hmm.
possibly for like a day trip, is not just run a demo, but maybe run a workshop on how to teach a game to a brand new player. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and like we could, you know, play a role where, you know, not quite a shill role, but I know nothing about Starfleet battles. How do you play this game?
Right.
And here's one way of doing it, and here's another way of doing it. Boom. Or I've never played Terrible Swift Sword. How do you play that?
Right.
And I could break the whole thing down. Here's how you do every step of the game, and you know how you get into real-time play in a board game.
Right.
So there's
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, and definitely when it comes to teaching games, the key there at all is just depending upon the game, their teaching style has to be different. That's part of it right there.
Well, there's a lot of things that go into it. I mean, you know some of my background, and you know, and I'm not a certified teacher per se, not even remotely close to that. But on the other hand, I have an extensive amount of basically hands-on training of here's how you teach people through, you know, the military background that I had.
Right.
And a lot of that, I've applied that. I could literally teach somebody to play SFU in about maybe half an hour. You know, hands-on practical experience of these are the things you do, this is how the game works.
Right.
And then all the rest of that is, if you want to go and read the rules, yes, please do so. But the focus when I do it is on teaching them how to play the game and not actually playing the game myself so much.
Right. And it usually, and I still remember teaching FedCom. And FedCom, it's a set of steps. Obviously you have to be able to understand what you've got in front of you. That's the first step. And then you have to understand how things move, how things work, how the mechanics work, and then go on for there. And in the case of also FedCom, usually what you would do is, okay, first part of it is I will tell you what you're going to do. You just do it. Just trust me. Do what I tell you to do, and we'll go. After I teach you all this beginning stuff, just do this. Follow me, and I'll teach you along the way. And then that's the first turn. But usually by the third turn, okay, now it's all up to you. Okay, you decide what you're going to do at that point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, what I like to do is, if I'm going to teach somebody how to do it, I like to have two people playing that don't include me.
Right.
Kind of like a referee on it.
Oh, agreed. That's usually optimum, but usually that's hard to have such an optimum thing. I still remember the one time I agreed to it, and I think back on it and going, this might not have been the best thing for her, but she wanted to learn. Which was, this one lady came by, and she wanted to learn how to play Starfleet Battles, because her boyfriend knew Starfleet Battles, and she wanted to play it with him. Basically as a kind of a group activity. Lord knows that might not end up good. I'm just thinking about Vince and Beth.
Aww.
You remember Vince and Beth Weibert? Remember that?
God, that sounds so familiar.
Well, that was a couple. They played SFB together, and then Beth divorced Vince. I forget why. She told me why, because I did contact her, did talk to her about it. Because I knew Beth. And I ran into her. I forget where I ran into her. Whether it was on Twitter or someplace else, but I know I still follow her on Twitter. But yeah, they used to play together, and it's like, I'm not so sure. I'm pretty sure she told me that SFU wasn't exactly the best thing for the relationship. Yeah, it's like, that would not surprise me. Because I think what happened is that she divorced him because Vince was cheating on her. I think that was it. I think that was the story.
Pretty much a good reason to go by. Mm-hmm. That's usually the number one reason why people split.
Oh, unfortunately, yeah. Infidelity, not a good thing. Agreed. Well, I think when we ended up here, my dear friend, it's been a pleasure talking to you and thinking back at the old origins many years gone past now. Jeez.
Yeah. Well, there was something that you were mentioning in your prior thing. If you have a minute or two yet.
Yeah.
I was listening to the last week's episode.
Right.
And I thought the analogy part with using D&D was interesting. And I thought that could be something to discuss in a future time if you wanted to bring that up, because this brings back a lot of memories of like running Rollmaster and Call of Cthulhu and other stuff like that.
Well, no, I played Rollmaster and I loved playing Rollmaster just because to me it was such a better system than Dungeons and Dragons. The funnest part was the critical hit and critical failure system. I still remember just sitting there reading the tables, because some of these were just hilarious. Some of the things that happened. Oh, you tripped up and cut off your own arm. Things like that. When you have a critical miss like that, then you have like.
Well, I was thinking if you wanted me to come in a week or two, we could talk about that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe throw out some interesting stories, analogies, things like that.
Yeah.
Use it as a teaching tool if you want.
Sure.
But please let me know if you have an interest in coming up for the gaming day thing.
Mm-hmm.
That'll be here in Harrisburg. It's linked on the Facebook page for Gamers of South Central.
Mm-hmm.
I shared the link that the event people gave me for it.
Mm-hmm.
So, other than that, I really don't have a lot. Feel free to share the GoFundMe.
Will do.
Share it with everybody.
Yeah. Obviously, people on the podcast go to gamersofwinter.net, and there's a GoFundMe right there on the front page there. We definitely could use raise up the money as much as possible. I know that not everyone is around the Harrisburg area or will be able to attend Gamers of Winter. But obviously, we are looking for your support. If you could just support us, but just give us like $20, something that could help us old timers, get together and play games. Because maybe you'll actually in the area, or the worst case scenario, that you help someone else learn about a game. Because Lord knows. Doug, I know there have been multiple times where we actually had families come out together and play games right there at the convention, which was always great. We want to bring the young people there. We want to bring the families there and play games and just have fun, because that's what it's all about.
Yeah, well, and one of the other things is it's a very non-commercial environment. Mm-hmm. You're not going to your average game shop where they've got all the games up on the shelf and they might, want you to buy stuff. You don't feel any kind of pressure for that. We have a lot of people that will teach you how to play all these different games. And, I've had quite a few people over the years say that was very good for them, because they got to, for their entry, they got to learn a bunch of different things, see what they liked, and, they could pick out their Christmas selection, for crying out loud, or birthday selection, or I want these games because they'll be fun for the family.
Right. We got,
and
board games, and then the European games. Lots of different games that people were able to play. It's Lord, and that's one thing I definitely missed Mike about, and him and Og. He was like the best DM for Og.
Yeah, that was a double whammy this last winter.
Yeah, I know that was so sad, and that was so quick. Dang, man.
Yeah, and it's like if the paramedics are asking you if you can walk to the ambulance or if you want to get on the thing, you get on the thing. So, because I was thinking about that when I went in literally last week for third time on heart stuff. And, we didn't screw around with it. We just got me to the hospital once we talked to the VA about it. Mm-hmm. And, that was a double whammy, because it happened like literally a few days before the Gamers of Winter last year. And
yep. And you were in the hospital at that time too.
Oh yeah, I was in the hospital for a week unexpectedly that year, and it was just a total beatdown mentally for everybody.
Yeah, and what happens that same day is it starts to snow, so I had to leave a little early. That was interesting, driving home.
Yeah. But on a more positive note,
we're alive.
We're alive, and we can toast him at the next convention.
Yep.
So,
Amen.
there's
Amen.
that. But yeah, that's the one thing that truly sucks about getting older is, everybody around you's getting older, and it's like, we all start dropping.
Yeah. Oh, don't remind me.
Yeah.
Don't remind me, because, damn. Don't want to think about that. Don't want to think about it. Don't want to
Positive
think about
note.
Yes. You want to go on a positive note. That's not the way to go, man. Oy.
But on a positive, let me know if you're interested in coming up for the game day thing,
Mhm.
and we could maybe man a table together and do demos of, games, but also demos of how to demo, maybe,
Right.
if that makes sense.
Yes, that makes complete sense.
And if you want, maybe we can talk about some other games. Have you had something that you and Barry were prepared to talk about, but I was apparently unaware of?
Yeah. Yeah. Basically, it was. I talked about it last week, which is an SFU Online Empire. Now, this one person contacted me via Twitter and said, that he created, he should have created these ships really quick. And to me, they're quick. They're not exactly what I would want for my SFB Online Empire. But we wanted to talk about it, about what he presents, when it comes to weapons and systems and how they work and so forth. Interesting kind of ships, I must admit, when it comes to the design. That was the one thing I appreciated about the SSDs he created, which were the ship design was unique. It definitely wasn't like any other ship that I'd seen when it comes to their silhouette. So definitely, Barry and I will talk about that next week.
Okay. Did you want me to take a look at it?
If you want to, sure. I'll
If
be
you do, just send me the file. I'll take a look at it.
okay. We'll do.
Yeah.
I'll forward the stuff to you. Ignore the grammatical stuff, because I know Barry already pinged about that. It's like, really, it's not like we're going to be publishing this,
Oh, I know. That's a whole other issue.
Agreed. Let's not get started into that, because I know ADB is not looking for new submissions, for that. And when it comes to empires moving forward, they've already got their ideas. They've got their lists and what their ideas for them.
That's a topic that they've had to deal with for decades.
Yep.
Do understand all that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I thank you very much for bringing me on.
Mm-hmm.
And just let me know when you want me to come back. More than happy to.
We'll do.
Thanks,
Okay.
Paul.
Okay. You have a good night.
You too.
Okay. Bye. So, someone just show up on the talk show. Hi. And we're just about to shut down for the night, because it's already been past an hour, and I actually have to get some sleep too. But had a nice reminisce about origins of the past. Obviously didn't get as many stories out of Doug as I probably should have dug into that a little bit more. But definitely brought back many memories of my times at Origins. I remember after Joe Butler no longer was with us, Steve Petrick becoming basically the run of the tournaments, and I remember being his second in command. Just not that he designated me second in command. It was more of I was the volunteer there the most. I was the volunteer who would help him as much as possible to do whatever he needed. I was there, and I didn't do it to run it or anything like that, because Lord knows he was in charge, and a lot of times I didn't have the answer, so I was always asking him. So it's not like it was not power play or anything stupid like that. I enjoyed judging. I enjoyed being there And, I was so happy to do that, as I told you before, I got my rated ace card, and after that, I was good. I was good. I was happy to be a judge at that point. Well, so with that, I am Paul Franz, and I bid you a good night.